Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our, it is February meeting here. So it's definitely not July or August at this point in time here. So I will let Kate or Brian kick things off here and let me know when to jump back in when you want updates from the IPRA at all.
Sounds good. So we'll actually start with a couple updates, and then we're gonna jump right into our speakers today. So we have a panelist of folks who are joining us throughout the state to talk about 2020 lessons and kind of lived experiences. Brian's gonna moderate that panel with a series of questions, and then I'll come in at the end and I will moderate a Q&A. So just a couple of things, just some notes, because I hear some kind of sound in the back. If you're not a panelist, if you could just mute yourself so we don't hear the sound in the background. If you need help with that, let me know. I can help you in the chat. So we'll do a few updates on the IPRA side. We'll give a quick update about the Aquatic Leadership Summit, and then we're going to jump right into the panelists here so we can get that session going, and then hopefully have a really dynamic chat at the end that can include some Q&A that people are typing in the chat as we're going. And then also hopefully some people will hop on the mic and just talk a little bit about questions they have, or share different perspectives, so that we can all leave today with some real tangibles to take back to work on Monday and start to kind of figure out how we're actually going to do this for summer 2021. So to start, how about Kelly, we do the IPRA update, and then I'll do a quick update for the summit, and then we'll jump right in.
Okay, super. So I think the big thing on the list is going to be our first of our 2021 conference virtual events in just under 2 weeks here. So if you have not registered yet, we've got our first one February 25th. If you have not been on our website and under the education tab and the Iowa conference, you will be able to see our list of vendors as we are getting their pages and their virtual booths set up. They actually are going live. So if you'd like to look at some of our vendors, I think we've got 15 now that are registered that'll have live booths going. I think all of them have signed up for all 3 months of the time slot. So get on to IPRA website, go under education, Iowa conference, and then you can see the vendor booths. So got some great vendors out there. They've got short little videos. They've got photo galleries, contact information, a little bit about them. So lots of stuff. So just want you guys to go out and support those that are investing back in the IPRA here. Registration's on that same page there. If you haven't registered, the at a glance is up and ready for the event that's going to take place on the 25th. I think I got the final copy last night of the one for March 30th. So that one's going to go up. So you'll see our speakers for that one. That should go up by the end of today as well. I think the other thing we've got for YPN folks on the 19th next week, we've got a luncheon. So those under the age of 35 and under can contact Austin, and he would be happy to get you on the list for luncheon and a little presentation for the YPN folks. Then also got on the Horizons a trivia night for YPN, but that's going to be open for everyone. So we really hope everyone gets involved. That's going to be April 1st coming up here. So although the events are still virtual, unfortunately, we're trying to do some different things and keep engaging you guys in these types of activities here. So that's kind of it on the horizon. We're still doing all of our aquatic CEU, CPO classes in person, following whatever guidelines the hotel has, with the governor lifting a little bit of the restrictions. It sounds like some of those restrictions will be lifted at some of those facilities. So Steve's just closely watching what each hotel requires, and if the city has anything extra in place there for masks and social distancing and all that. But those still are taking place. This is a kind of hot and heavy time for those, with a class every other week going right now. So if you're in need of those, get signed up, registered for those too. But I think as far as that goes, that's kind of it for the IPRA stuff.
All right, excellent. So just a couple updates on the Aquatics Leadership Summit. So we have a subcommittee that's been working to get details together for a day-long virtual alternative to the in-person manager workshop that we used to have. And we're giving this a little bit of a facelift while we are also taking it virtual for the first time. So we've rebranded it as the Aquatics Leadership Summit, and it's really designed to be a kind of choose your own adventure. So if you have leadership staff, whether they're brand new to being a head guard or a pool coordinator or a lesson coordinator, or if you have some seasoned staff, or if you're newer to your position and you are interested in coming to that, then that's a great alternative. Kelly, can you mute all the mics, please? We have a couple people that have mics on still. Thank you. And so we're working on that. The date for that is May 19th. And we, in the beginning of March, we'll have the information on how to sign up and also who the speakers will be for that and also the price for that. So we are pretty close here to being able to announce some more of those details, but we're really excited with everything that's been coming together. We're really hoping that we're able to up-level this experience a little bit by giving some options so that it tailors to people on both kind of ends of that spectrum, whether they're temp staff or those of us that are, in the field more full-time, but still can gain some value from those sessions. And then just a reminder too, that a lot of our aquatics meetings have qualified as CEUs. Today doesn't, and next month won't, but if you had gone to previous ones, those do count as CEUs. So make sure that you're adding those to your list as you're also attending other virtual sessions that IPRA is putting on. So without further ado, we're going to jump in. We have the honor of having 4 wonderful panelists. All 4 opened their facilities last summer, and we have a really great sampling of folks from some different sized communities. So it was really important to us that we had a good spread of representation here. So I'm going to let Brian jump in and he'll start with introducing the panelists. And then we have a series of questions. What we're going to ask is if you have clarifying questions that you pop those into the chat or make a list. And then at the end, we'll have some Q&A opportunity to ask the panelists, and then we'll open that up to some wider conversation for all of us to discuss. So I'll turn it over to you, Brian, and I'll be modding the chat as we said. And then I'll jump into if Brian needs any help, but I'll let him take it away.
Beautiful. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen right now so we can see who are the speakers. But first off, thank you so much to the speakers coming in to help us with this and sharing your experiences throughout last summer. I'm going to kind of start in order, but since I see a couple new faces, or sorry, new names in the chat, I'm going to ask each speaker to announce who they are, their position, where they're located, and just a quick summary about them. So I'm going to start it off. Katie, we're going to start off with you. Tell us give us a couple of minutes about yourself.
All right, my name is Katie Todd. I am the recreation supervisor here in Ankeny. I do pools in the summer, and we just started our basketball program this winter. So if I do step away, I have coaches coming in to pick up all their equipment today. So if they give me a call, but I started last May. Before that, I was working at the Science Center of Iowa. And then previously, I worked for the city of Cedar Falls with their recreation department for 10 years. I actually started there when I was 15 and ended up there when I was 25 and moved down to Des Moines. So I have a degree from Central College in math. And then I also got my master's in math at UNI. So I just finished.
Thank you. And sorry, side note, but Central College graduate too. So nice to meet. All right, thank you, Katie. Let's go with Hannah. Hannah, tell us a little bit about yourself, ma'am.
Hey, I'm from Fort Dodge. I've been here for almost 6 years. I'm the recreation superintendent. So besides the pools, I also am in charge of the operations of our golf course, our baseball, softball complex, the pool, recreation programs, and our senior center. I went to UNI, got Leisure, Youth, and Human Services, both undergrad and master. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Thank you, Hannah. Mandy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, I am the aquatics supervisor at Tipton. I went to William Penn University and did not intend to be in a recreation field. So I studied behavioral sciences and music. So all of our swim lessons incorporate some form of music. So I deal with everything here on the aquatic side, anything and everything that we do here at the facility. I assist our rec director with rec stuff as well. And especially since everything's been crazy, we've been helping each other out a lot. So, yeah.
Good, good, thank you. And Alex, tell us a little about yourself.
Hi, I'm Alex Myers. I'm the aquatic manager for the city of Pella. We have an indoor and outdoor facility that I run, as well as concessions for our facility and our sports park. I'm originally from Northwest Iowa and have been the manager here for almost 5 years.
Awesome. Well, thank you, panelists, for being here. We are going to start getting into the questions. I am not going to do this in any order, so it's going to be popcorn, so be prepared. But what we're going to do is basically just share what we've done so our other members can kind of pick up some tips and tricks as they get ready for 2021. Hannah, I'm going to put you on the hot seat first. With this question, can you tell us a little bit about your preseason training schedule? Were you offering in-house? Were you offering public classes, research? What changed compared to previous years? And that question will go to Hannah.
Sorry, my internet keeps cutting out on me.
I was like,
okay, so basically preseason training schedule, what we did is we did a lot of stuff on Zoom. So I actually put together all of our city and department policies onto a PowerPoint, recorded those as a video onto Zoom, sent them out via email to everybody, and then also did a Survey Monkey quiz, which they had to answer. And so I sent that out. And so we did all of that type of stuff before. We used to do that all in person. And then we offered way more blended learning lifeguard class.
Hannah was still there. Did you cut out? Uh-oh. Let's come back to Hannah, and I'll get a hold of her if I can. Let's switch it over and we'll wrap back around to Hannah. Katie, with you guys being such a big community, how did you guys approach it this year?
So this year, one of the big things that changed is we opened later. I think many of our pools in the area opened later that did open. So we opened and we had a week and we set up the pools and we actually did our orientation in 3 days. Usually it's nightly, kind of like how a lot of people do it where everyone comes in at night. We did it in 3 days, all in person. We decided to do all in person because we just wanted everyone to be there so we could actually see their faces and meet them. We didn't have that many new staff, so that was nice. So it was a lot of returning staff. For lifeguard training, we did all in-house and we did those in person. We put them in groups, so like little pods of 3 to 4 kids, depending on the group size. And we changed a little bit about how we did it, but we really wanted them to practice their skills because they needed to be ready. Some of the things that changed for CPR is we didn't have them actually like blowing into mannequins. They were like saying breath instead, which is what the Red Cross recommends. There were a few other minor changes about just trying to keep a lot of cleaning involved, and we all wore masks on land and in our training areas. We did them at a larger space than what we usually do. So they all had to wear masks at all times except when they were in the water. So hopefully that's a good summary.
Okay, thank you. Kate, did you have any follow-up questions with that one?
No. I think it's good to get a feel for what people have been doing, and also you know, if you were offering a lot of classes to the public at that time or not. So Mandy, why don't we hear what you were doing with your preseason training, and then also what you were offering for classes leading up to opening?
Yeah, so once spring break hits for our community, it is getting to summer mode for us. And of course, that's when everything started shutting down. So I had a pool manager who is taking a lot of online courses for her sports medicine major. And so she referenced us to the National Federation of State High School Association website. And they did a lot of free courses that people could just hop on, and they were like 20-minute spurts. We encouraged our staff to do those. It was like engaging with parents, sudden cardiac arrest, heat illness prevention. They were aimed more towards coaches, but I challenged our guards to think of them in our settings, especially with lessons as far as like engaging with parents. We do a huge research right before Christmas with all of our staff so that they keep getting like big refreshers all year long. So we got to do all of that in person, thank goodness, since our May one was a little different. So, and then in June, we did like a 3-phase kind of thing as far as our orientation. We did hybrid WSI, that kinds of things, where a lot of it they did prior to coming in, did a review when they got here, and then they did in-water stuff way later, and that was up to whoever was the instructor. We don't have anybody in-house that's LGI. We have people that come in and do that. So there was definitely a variety of what people could choose and what people were comfortable with doing. So they had a large variety in that way. So I see that you need me to repeat the website again. It's NFHS. If you just Google that, you'll find it, but its full long association name is National Federation of State High School Association. And like I said, they're 20-minute little training things. I had them send me their certificates at the end, and they're all on file in their records, so it shows that they have that little extra training in that way.
Good, thank you. And Alex, tell us a little bit about your season in regards to this question.
Yeah, so we are one of the few pools in Iowa who are Ellis and Associates instead of Red Cross. So luckily, once this all kind of happened, Ellis was able to send out blended training information pretty quickly. So we did a lot of online trainings with like where they had quizzes at the end of chapters. So it was almost like a short re-lifeguarding class. And then we start doing recertifications in January. We offer them once a month. So I did get some of my staff through, and then we just offered, like, I did a whole week where every night we just did a recert, and we could have 10 people at that recert, social distance, and then did all the like in water, CPR, spinal, that kind of stuff. We actually didn't end up having any new guard classes until like the end of summer, just because how late we opened and everything. So I didn't really have much interest until later. So it was kind of nice. We mainly just had recertified staff that had already been here, which meant that we didn't have to do a lot of orientations or anything like that. We have 2 pools sections of the pools, and we only opened one of them. So I didn't have to have as many staff this last year.
Awesome, thank you. Sounds like Hannah's back. Hannah, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. A little bit of feedback, but we got you.
Okay, I think I'm good. I'm
Beautiful.
using my phone as a hotspot, so we'll see. Gotta love this work internet. It's great. So just, I guess a couple other things. I guess I don't even know what you guys even heard. So we did, I made Zoom PowerPoints that people had to take, and then also did Survey Monkey for all of the city and the department policies. And then I also was able to do a lot of our other preseason type of actual facility type of training, whether it be rules and policies and procedures, not the EAP, all of that. We did all of that through Zoom as well. We kept our groups very limited on, we only had about actually probably 10 people or less in each different.
Oh no, are you still there? All right, we will try to wrap back around Hannah again in the future, but let's move into the next question. This question, you guys already talked a little bit about it in the first question, but we'll get a little bit more detail about what really changed about your hiring and onboarding practices. And I do have a follow-up question on this that just came to my mind. What would you keep moving forward? So post-COVID, what has changed and what would you keep that you found out worked really well? And this time, let's start with Mandy.
Okay, so we have such a small community that it's really hard to recruit as it is. Prior to this, I was able to go into the schools and get a bunch of interest. That all fizzled once they stopped going to school. So we didn't have very many people coming in, and a large reason why we opened this year was so that we had staff stay with us. Our biggest concern was that if we didn't open, we wouldn't have any staff left for this summer. And we definitely took a hit as far as staff finding other places of employment. So what we did, nothing necessarily changed for us, just the way that we interviewed. We just did a lot of stuff via Zoom, and all of their stuff as far as like new paperwork, all that kind of things, they had to turn that into City Hall through a Dropbox. So there wasn't a lot of face-to-face prior to that. Again, we have a really small community, so that didn't affect us too much as we know all these kids locally and pretty well. My brother is 7 years younger than me, so he was still in high school at the time, so we knew all the kids. Adam's kids, the rec director here, they're freshmen in high school. So as far as onboarding practices and hiring, we really didn't change much, besides there wasn't any in-person contact in that way.
Thank you. Alex, what about you guys? I mean, you guys are a little bit higher in population. Is it relatively the same, or what has changed?
Yeah, so I kind of said, so if we have our whole facility open, everything running, I need 21 lifeguards to man that. So I try to have 70 to 80 people on staff. Because we opened so late in this season, I lost about 40 people who had found other jobs, or college kids that didn't come back because of COVID reasons and things. So we just opened our main pool, which we only needed 10 lifeguards. We cut back our hours, and then we just didn't hire new people until closer to summer, just so we didn't have to train people and do things with that. So it's kind of a weird summer for us, but people were happy we opened something. So moving forward, we're trying to get back to finding people. We also have a hard time, even though we are bigger, finding people to work. Just because a lot of people here to do a lot of summer activities. So we try to just be really flexible with hours and days and how much they want to work, and get people even if they can only work like once a week. So we just have a lot of people who work like full-time hours, and then a lot of people who work like 1 or 2 days a week.
Awesome, thank you. Katie, with you guys, with a higher population, understand you guys only opened up one pool as opposed to two. How'd that look like this year in terms of what changed on your practices?
I won't go too much into the facility stuff, but we did a lot of facility changes, like shutting down slides, shutting down one of our whole facilities. So this year for each shift, we needed 24 lifeguards. And then we got rid of our water slide attendant position, which we also usually have. So because we didn't have as many water slides. So that did change. We only had about 60 lifeguards, and usually we have between 80 and 90 to really staff the whole facility plus the second facility. And then we usually have between probably 20 to 30, possibly more of the 15-year-olds. And this year we trained 15-year-olds. We did training, lifeguard training courses in July. And so we got some more during the season because we were short, especially when it came to August. We lost, kind of like Alex, we lost about 40 to 50 staff because of COVID. So it did change our numbers quite a bit. We had mostly returners, only because those new people, we didn't have the opportunity to train in May like we usually would. So some of our hiring stuff really changed. We did it all in person still, like I said earlier, which is different than a lot of places, but we felt it was important to still see them. And we were gonna ask them to be together all day with 30 to 40 other staff when you included mission concession and managers. So we put them in pods. We didn't have any problems with our orientation. No one tested positive after orientation. So we didn't have problems. We had other throughout the summer, but we didn't have any problems from our orientation. So that was good.
Good, and we'll wrap back around that orientation here in the next question. So keep that fresh. Is Hannah still with us, or is she still having issues?
I'm trying, Brian.
Oh, Hannah, welcome back.
I don't know how long I'll be back for.
Well, let's give it a shot. See what you have on this question about what has changed last summer about your hiring and onboarding practices.
Yeah, so we actually didn't do any in-person interviews. Obviously, basically March 17, that was when our world stopped here. So after that, we weren't technically in a hiring freeze, but sorry about that. Our director had told us we weren't allowed to interview anybody or hire anybody unless if we got prior permission from her, which is completely understandable. So when we did feel like we needed to get on the board of some stuff, we went to her and she gave us permission. But everything wasn't. We did interviews, we offered conditional jobs, and we just basically said, we can give you a lifeguard job. As long as we are allowed to open. By that point, it was probably about April 1st was when we decided, as long as we will open, pretty much almost the day that the governor gives us permission to open after she had closed everything. We were in the mindset of opening, so we gave them conditional job offers. They weren't allowed to go into City Hall to do any of their paperwork, so we actually took that all in-house. And did all of that. And then, but yeah, everything was a lot of Zoom and phone interviews for like hiring and onboarding.
Thank you. So we'll roll into question 3. This is still continuing on what you guys have talked about, but let's get a little bit more into detail beyond just virtual Zooms and masks and all that. When you looked at the season, what did your summer staff orientation look like? You guys talked about it. And what did your in-service format look like? Did you have them? Because I know some pools opened but didn't have the in-service. So give us a little bit more details on those 2 items, please. Let's start with Katie. I'm going to start with you because you talked about orientation.
Like I said, our orientation was all in person. We did it at one of our centers in town, which is a big open space that we could socially distance and wear masks inside of. And then when we were out at the facilities, we split them into smaller groups for like the lifeguards, split into smaller groups amongst themselves. The admission concession staff kind of split into their own group. And we followed all social distancing that we could. We did ask them to practice their lifeguarding skills in person. We felt it was important that they review those, even though many of them were returning. They still need to be ready to save someone. We were, I mean, we'll talk about this later, but we were expecting up to 1,000 people a day, be split between 2 sessions. So I don't want to put all those people at risk if we're not going to actually practice. So we did also have in-service. You had to attend 2 a month. Those were in person. They were 2 hours long each to meet the minimum requirement of 4 hours a month. And we basically did a lot of the stuff we usually would. We split them into small groups. We have enough managers. With this summer we had 6, so we could split our lifeguards into groups of about 5 or 6 to keep them small and kind of just go through all the basic skills we would, leaving masks on as much as possible and social distancing as much as possible. But again, we wanted them to be ready for anything. We had saves this summer. We had to make sure they were all ready. So it looked similar, just a lot of social distancing and masks and small little tiny groups of the same people each week.
Good. And I do have a follow-up question with that, because one of my questions was how many people per group, and you said 5 to 6. My follow-up question for everyone in the group, did you keep the groups the same or did they rotate? Like, for example, when people come in, all right, pick 5, or did you assign the same 5 people the entire summer?
So for us, we asked them to pair with friends, which isn't what we typically do, but we figure a lot of them were seeing their friends outside of work. Some of them would drive together, even though we asked them not to. It's nothing we can control. We did ask them to wear masks if they drove together, but we asked them to be with their friends because chances are if they're hanging out with their friends at work, they're gonna be hanging outside with them outside of work. And so if we can pair them with as many friends as possible, it kind of made it easier for us to contact trace when we had to do that a few times, just to kind of keep everyone together. If a friend group really couldn't actually do the orientation successfully together, if they were goofing around or, you know, if they did need to be split up, we did do that, but we didn't have any problems with friend groups. They understood, they wanted to stay together and they wanted to be with the people they were comfortable with, if that makes sense.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Thank you. Alex, we're gonna talk about Pella. What did that orientation look like in the in-service? And since you are Ellis Associates, how was that supportive for you guys?
Yeah, so we, for orientation, kind of just broke it up. I think I did it by last name, was you came at a certain time and then we walked through like the changes and did like our brick test that they have to do outside and all that stuff. We also did in-service training. So we did 2 sessions for swimming and then we had a half an hour break in between those. So during that half an hour break, whoever was working, we would do in-service during that break time because they were already at the pool and getting paid. So if they worked like 4 days a week and they got their 4 hours, which is what they required a month, then they would be on our sanitized team instead. So we kind of just broke people into groups. And then we also did a lot of video training stuff too, if they weren't working and couldn't be in the pool. And we're still doing some of that just to get those in-service hours and watching videos and taking online quizzes through Ellis, pretty much like the lifeguard class again.
Good, thank you. Mandy, tell us a little bit about your staff orientation in detail and how the in-services look like for you guys.
Yeah, so something that we started prior than last year was we did a summer orientation for anybody who was returning. And that was really nice because I had my LGI come and everybody that needs to get recerted got recerted in December. So I had no concerns as far as my staff getting recerted, but we just go through basically what we go through for summer orientation in the winter. So it's fresh for when we come back in May. We do typically our orientation for summer is one Saturday in May. This year it was 2 days, split between 2 groups. So we staff 25 to 30 lifeguards. We didn't have our lazy river this year, which was a sanitation decision, not a staffing decision. So we had 10 guards on shift to man everything, and also to be overly cautious, just because we were able to this year with not having a lazy river. We had an extra station at our main pool. So basically what we did was their packets they picked up beforehand and turned everything into City Hall for us as far as like signing. We did Zoom for communicating what their expectations are and all that, which usually we do in person. We did have some fun during our midway orientation throughout the summer, and we made a TikTok, which did pretty well, if I do say so myself. And the kids really loved doing that. But so that got everybody together, but then we split into friends. Like Katie said, they were already going to be together. So we said, be together some more. So we're not exposing everybody all at once. We split into groups of 3, mostly because our stations require at least 3 people. For like first aid, I have flashcards that they use. So somebody is the mediator who is making sure that what's happening is correct. So they get a card for the victim, and the victim tells the lifeguard what their symptoms are, what their scenario is, and then the lifeguard / rescuer needs to evaluate the situation and do what they need to do. So that sort of thing is what we did for stations. Something else that we normally do for orientation is I'm kind of lucky in the fact that my mother-in-law organizes our dispatch for the county. So something that was burned into my brain when I started dating my husband was that you need to know how to call 911 and what to do when you make that phone call, and not to freeze when you call 911 when they ask you a ton of questions. So we typically have someone from dispatch that comes in and explains, we want your address first. We don't really care who you are. We want to get to you as fast as possible, that kinds of thing. And then it usually works out that they're training somebody the same day that we have our orientation. So when they actually call 911 and are calling in, we're helping each other. I've always wanted to do it to where we do the whole scenario, ambulance comes if necessary, that kind of thing, but it never really works out. We just usually get to the dispatch side of things. There are times where I will be like, hey, you blanked and you need help with counting for CPR. And so how to ask for help and all that kinds of stuff, because those things happen. So that's kind of how our thing goes. This year, we didn't have dispatch come in. We just coordinated through me calling 911 for them. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And Hannah, how about you guys?
Okay, so our summer staff orientation, we typically try to get all new and returning guards in at our high school pool, which has an indoor pool because we are only an outdoor pool, about the middle of May. And so that would be, I mean, we try to get every guard there, but we typically only get about 40 guards, where we try to employ about 50 to 55 every summer. But this year we decided we weren't going to do that because we felt the time when I had to actually say yes or no to the reservation that I had made in October of 2019 for the pool. We still weren't aware of when we were going to be able to open the pools yet. So we decided to cancel that. And obviously that's way too many people to have at one time, but we ended up splitting all of our returning guards into 2 different, sessions, I guess you could say, that they could come in at Rosedale. And that was about after Memorial Day, and a lot of them had to get recertified anyways. So we did all 10 guards at one time, and they all had to pair up in with the exact same person. And then the whole entire class, and then all new guards, we split up into, I think, like 3 or 4 different sessions where they would come in, and they came into the pool facility. We gave them a tour of the facility. went over the big EAP. So that would be kind of more the orientation side. In-service format, we actually don't do in-services. We do daily trainings every day, and we keep track of who goes. Basically, if you're on the schedule, you have to attend. It's a half an hour training before we open the pool every single day. That's actually only Monday through Friday. Sorry, we don't do weekends anymore. So we do that, and we kind of still felt like that was the best way to do it. And we would work on, there are specific times that we did the skills versus going over pool rules, slide rules, all of that. We just kind of kept socially distanced. A lot of the people that work for us, again, are all friends, few different friend groups here and there. But when we did in water skills, we always said, keep your same person, make it be one of your friends. But not everybody works every single day, so that didn't help. And so yeah, that's kind of what our in-service format looked like.
Awesome, thank you. We're gonna move into the next one. This one is gonna be centered around your public. So looking at the pandemic, what can you describe your registration practices for the public to register and your attendance tracking? What has changed during this pandemic for those two items? And then Katie, I'm going to start with you because I'm actually personally curious on you guys with only limiting your patrons to Ankeny residents. So I'm curious to see how that registration practice and attendance look like for your pool. Can you shed some light on that, please?
Yep. So we use a registration process, and it was all online this year through Sportsman's. So they could go online and register their spot. We opened it up 1 week before, so they could start registering for the whole week. Each account person was only allowed to register for one slot. So if I was a family and I wanted to register all my 4 kids, you had to make 4 accounts, and that kind of helped with people bringing in large groups, because otherwise you could say, like, I'm bringing in 25 people, and then we were going to have 25 people there. So we changed that with Ankeny residents. If they already had an account with us with Sportsman's, you could see, we verify if they are actually an Ankeny resident or not. And then if they're not and they're making a new account, either online or through us, we verify their address with either a driver's license, or like if they'd have to text us a picture, or we could look up their website and see on Polk County if they actually owned that home. If you look it up on their website, you can see the first name of the person who owns the home. We still are trying to find out. We can look at your credit card and see like where your credit card is registered to. It's a process, but I think we did a really good job. We kind of worked together to make sure we got them all. On the weekend, it was difficult. I wouldn't say we got 100% of them because they're making accounts on the weekend. We can't track them all. Mm-hmm. But like I said, there was 2 sessions. So we had one session from 12 to 3, and then we took a half hour off for cleaning. And then it was from 3:30 to 6:30. And the limit was 525 people per session. So I think that kind of answers everything. I have to go. I'm going to go meet a coach, but I will be back.
Alex, how about in Pella with you guys both indoor and outdoor? How did that look like for you guys?
Yeah, we also used Sportsman, who had implemented some tracking stuff before we opened. So we also did a reservation system. We had 2 time slots. So there was a 1 to 4 time, which you had to have a reservation for. The most people you could bring in was 10. So if you had more than 10 people, we had to have 2 separate reservations. If you had a membership, you could register online, but if you didn't, you had to call. And then we had someone answering the phone. We also did 5 days in advance for making a reservation for phone calls and online. And then we had a 4:30 to 7:30 time. That was first come, first served, because that time usually isn't as busy as like our afternoon time. So that worked out. And we hit capacity a couple of Saturdays, but that was usually it. So if we didn't have reservations filled for the day, at like 12:45, we would make an announcement that we had walk-up spots available, and then we would just keep track and make sure we weren't hitting our capacity numbers. So we did a little bit of both of the reservations, and then we still are doing reservations for our indoor pool for a lap swim. This summer we only did one person per lane. We've now moved to two people per lane if they're in the same household. And then same with our indoor for open swim. We still have reservations, and then you only can bring in so many people per lane.
Awesome.
We do like the reservation system. I think it actually, a lot of our patrons like the reservation system, especially for lap swim, just because they know that they have a certain lane at a certain time, and that like it's not going to be too busy for them to come in and not get in. It was kind of hectic for the outdoor pool, just because we only have one phone line and we got a lot of calls, so it was just a lot of people frustrated with having to be on the phone, but we didn't really have any other way to fix that. So it also helps that push memberships, because if you had a membership, you could register online. So that was kind of what the city decided.
Awesome. Thank you. Hannah, what about Fort Dodge?
Yeah, so we actually didn't do any type of registration for our open swim at all. The only registration that we did was for lap lanes, and we just used Sign Up Genius for that, so that was easy. And then for our open swim, we actually did hours of 1:30 to 5 for the public. If you had bought in a season pass, you could actually come in at 1 o'clock. So from 1 to 1:30, it was only pass holders. And that basically guaranteed you as a pass holder, you could get into the pool. We actually had decided about the middle of April that we were going to, because the pools were closed, we were going to take the time to actually paint our lazy river at the time. So they went in, they started painting it. We got that done in the June 20th or something. So we only opened with our rec pool, which is our little kiddie pool, and then our lap pool. So our attendance was actually only at that point 225 people. That we actually took a much greater people ratio to the square footage that they could take up versus what the Iowa Department of Public Health on the swimming pools website recommended to do. So we wanted to start off slow, and then we can always grow. It's easier to grow than take away from people. So then once we opened up the lazy river, we were able to obviously increase capacity. We had all three pools open for 5 days, and then our circuit board on our lap pool ended up breaking and frying. So then that was down for the rest of the summer because it had to get rebuilt in the Dominican. So it was a great summer. And then, but basically attendance tracking, we did the old school way of, we had an extra cashier and she clicked every person in. And then when people would leave, she would obviously take those people off. We posted on Facebook an update every single day that said, today is February 12th. Please find our attendance every half an hour in the comments. And we would post at 1:30. We had 20 people, we have room for this many more, that type of stuff. We just kept it updated every single half an hour. The whole summer, we actually only hit capacity twice, and then came near capacity maybe a handful of times. So yeah, that was kind of what we did.
Awesome, thank you. And Mandy, how about you guys in Tipton? What'd that look like for you guys?
So we didn't do reservations at all. Well, we did reservations. I should say we didn't do registration prior. We did reservations just for lap swim, and you'd think that like we were pulling teeth to do that in our community. We didn't allow our lap swimmers to register more than 24 hours in advance, or we would have had a full pool with the same people all week long. And we had a lot of people coming in, so we wanted to give everyone an opportunity to get a lane. Like I said, it was a time. They did not enjoy it at all. It interrupted their routine, I think, is the biggest thing. But what we did was we just did the reservations for lap swim. We did 1 daycare instead of our normal 2. We do pool stats every day. So we give the water tip, which is sometimes a blessing and a curse, but it also gives the weather update and then what our plan is for the day. So we can tell people if there were going to be daycares or if we were expecting a lot of people that day. We never hit capacity. There were a couple days it was really close, but we fortunately never hit capacity, so we didn't have to turn anyone away because we were on a first come, first serve basis. So.
Awesome. All right, moving to question 5. So some of you guys have already talked a little bit about this, but let's get a little bit more detail. What were your practices? How did they evolve? And as we get ready for another summer of COVID, what would you keep? And yeah, so let's go with Mandy. I'm sorry, I'm going to pick on you. We're going to do a pendulum. So can you start us off with question on this one?
Yeah, so we had 2 people from our concession staff whose only job for the day was to walk around and sanitize door handles, railings, benches. Even though some of them were closed, they were still getting used. We didn't have any chairs. There was no lazy river, so they didn't have to sanitize any of our tubes or any of our chairs. We encouraged people to bring in lawn chairs, which actually opened up our grass area a lot. No one ever had used our grass area besides daycares prior. And I think it opened up a lot of people's eyes as to, oh, I can sit in a really comfy chair that I brought and in the grass around nobody. So that was kind of a nice thing. We had a sign on our tower that said that it was the whole railings were sanitized every half hour and to use at their own risk. But that was as they walked around, every break. We did hour breaks and we changed our announcement to, instead of just we're taking a 10-minute break, it was we're taking a 10-minute break to sanitize. We encourage you to use the restroom as well as washing your hands. And just taking a cleanliness break was our biggest thing with our announcement. And then we had sanitizer everywhere. I order all of our next summer stuff on our last trucks for concessions because we have to meet a limit for our trucks to come. And a lot of the time I can't make that with just what we need for concessions. So I add in cleaning stuff, and fortunately, I got a lot of hand sanitizer last summer. I don't know if I was just seeing the future or what, but thank goodness we did because we couldn't get it after that. So we had sanitizer at every counter, every computer, every door. It was everywhere. So we encourage people to use that a lot as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Alex, what about in Pella? How about you guys? What were your practices and how'd they evolve?
Yeah, so I think someone had asked this question, but yes, we had a break between 4 and 4:30 every day, and we did use that for deep sanitation. So we would like get the hoses out, hose stuff down with our bleach solution, and then one of the other things that was like kind of different with Ellis is they didn't want lifeguards doing very much of the emergency situations. They wanted it to be more of like a head guard or a supervisor role. So I had extra supervisors here at all times. And so one of their job duties when they walked around was to sanitize as well. So we did like high touch point areas, ladders, light switches, stuff in the bathroom, soap dispensers, all that stuff. Luckily last summer too, we had moved to a lot of touchless stuff in our bathrooms. Not even just because of COVID, just because we got new equipment stuff. So that was helpful. And then we also purchased, and I can show you these Victory electrostatic cleaners. So they're like a gun that you can spray things and then they wrap around the equipment. So like if we sprayed the bench, we didn't have to spray the whole surface. You just have to spray like the top of it, and the molecule or whatever it is wraps around. So those were a huge help because we could just go through the locker rooms, spray stuff down in less than 5 minutes, and then just leave it to dry, and it dries in like 5 minutes. So that was something that we purchased to help with the sanitation, and we use those inside as well. Yeah, they are, the brand is Victory, and they are electric static cleaners. A lot of schools I know use them for like bleacher. I know like Pella did, and I think some of the other schools around are using them less for like the bleacher things as well. So if you, there's also like YouTube videos that show how to use it and what it does exactly. We are planning on staying up on cleaning. As of now, the city still has a lot of our COVID stuff in place, even with the governor changing some things. And then we use the gun every day in our locker rooms. Like after each, we have a 15-minute break in between lapsums still. So we go through and sanitize benches in the locker rooms, door handles, that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Thank you. Fort Dodge, how about you guys?
Yeah, so we added in, so for basically kind of sanitation purposes, we had one person that just walked around the whole entire time of open swim, had our bleach water solution on them and some paper towels, and we just sprayed down all high touch surface areas of door handles in the bathroom, sprayed stuff on the bathrooms. All of the ladder railings, the railings to go up the stairs to the water slides, the diving boards, all of those types of stuff. We took out all of our lounge chairs and benches around the entire facility and asked people to bring in their own stuff. We didn't let people eat. We did open concessions. We didn't allow people to eat at the tables or anything, because that was where our guards actually went for breaks, because we closed our guard shack off. We spread out our cashiers. So one of our cashiers actually went into the guard shack. The other one is at the front desk, just to try and keep people apart from each other. We did open our lazy river, and we had an extra person there at the basically once people kind of got off of their tubes, where then they would just flip the tube over into the water solution and and then flip it back up, and then put it in a clean pile. And then we actually only went with hand sanitizer at our cashier areas. Obviously we had it for staff, but for the public, we only put it at the cashier areas and at the concessions. We went with the notion of, if you want it, you can either bring it yourself, or these are where we see them to be the most benefit. And then kind of how they evolved, they didn't really evolve at all last summer. But what we are planning on for this next summer is we will take out, granted, I mean, we're all probably going through budget cuts also. But we're going to take out that extra person for the tube sanitation. And we actually are just going to let people, you know what, you want to come to the pool, do your due diligence, maybe to flip it over into the pool before you get on the tube, or don't go into the tube at all, and stay out of the lazy river. And then also we are going to take away that hotspot touch. We call them our hotspot touch person. We're going to take that away, and our manager or an extra cashier is going to be one that's going to be in charge of doing that.
Awesome. Thank you. And Katie, you guys, how did you guys deal with your practices?
So this summer, the first thing we did is we hired a cleaning crew. They would come each morning between 6 and 8 and really do a deep sanitation of our restrooms. And just like some of our drinking fountains, those were open because we felt it was a health risk to close them. We wanted people to get water if they needed it. So we did that. And then we did have people cleaning. It was on a rotation with our admission staff. So we would have 2 people sitting up at the register all day, and then 3 others would be on a rotation where they would do the swim test computer and then our actual swim test down at the pool. And then they do the cleaning. So the cleaning person, it was an hour rotation. So they get a bucket, and then on it was like a laminated sheet of paper with everything they needed to clean in that hour. They got it done in about 45 minutes usually. It went all through the bathrooms, through all the handrails, and then during our 10-minute pool break, we would then go do the guard stands. And that was the only time we really did guard stands, was during those breaks. We did it also at the beginning of the day and during that 30-minute break between our two sessions. There was a lot of sanitation. Like I said, we just built it into the admission concession rule. And that was kind of to help us so that they weren't doing it all day. They did it for usually about 2 hours a day, which hopefully was better. And then we were talking, did you talk about concession stands a little too? We did open our concession stand with only pre-packaged food, and there was hand sanitizer there. But we didn't sell like pizza and all the normal stuff. It was basically like you can come buy M&Ms or a drink or some chocolate. And there was hand sanitizer also up at our front. One of our people in park maintenance actually built us like giant hand sanitation stands. So they were very creative. It was with a bunch of command strips and metal. So we had that, and we had our plexiglass up front so that the concessions and the cashiers could stand next to each other. When they do that interaction, they never took any cash, which was really nice because all of it was paid for online. So they just kind of were there to watch them scan and go, or look them up because they got QR codes to come in.
Awesome. All right, we are down to the last few questions. Some of these you've already covered, so we're just going to briefly touch on them again. Just bullet point, quick one. But on question 6, when you look at the guidelines, how did you guys deal with the mask, the social distancing, the screenings for patrons and staff? And I think let's open this one up to Hannah first. How did you guys in Fort Dodge with the mask and social distancing?
Yeah, so we didn't require anybody from I'll start with the public first. So we didn't require anybody from the public to wear masks, anything like that at any point, whether they stood in line in the pool. We also didn't do any screening for any of the public. Our big push this past summer was, if you're sick, stay home. If you're not comfortable coming out, stay home. If you want to enjoy it, you can enjoy it safely, come, but it's your decision in the end. For staff wise, we did require masks for a lot of probably times when they couldn't be socially distanced from each other, especially the lifeguards. We didn't require them at all when they were on duty, like on their lifeguard stands. The only times we did, if they wanted to wear them, they could. We had plenty of people that decided they wanted to wear them. We didn't want to require it though. And then we did require it though at the top of all of our slides, because that's where you can obviously come into closer contact with everybody. Cashiers, it was required by cashiers, concessions, and then our supervisors as well. They all had to wear them. And at any point, if a lifeguard needed to go and grab a Band-Aid out of the lifeguard shack, then that was also needed to, they needed to wear a mask then. Socially distancing, we decided we weren't going to monitor that at all for the public. For staff, we kind of kept getting on them, stay apart. And then screening for staff, all we really did much was we obviously told them, if you guys are sick, please let us know. We did take temperatures at the beginning of every shift. If there was not questions or anything, and I mean, we only had to take it for one time during their shift at the beginning, but if they wanted to take it more, they were more than welcome to do that for staff. But we didn't do much, honestly, for the patrons on restrictions.
All right, thank you. How about Mandy? What about you guys in Tipton?
Ours is almost identical to Hannah's. We didn't really require anything of patrons. However, we did do a lot of marking outside. So head guards, for one of their duties was to make sure that the paint on the grass for their little pods were painted. So families could have a pod that was socially distant from everyone else. On our concrete, I did a lot of research because our tape was not sticking as far as like a pod on our concrete. And we ended up going with a bunch of acrylic paint that was watered down. It's It's apparently semi-permanent. We're gonna find out if it comes off. Worst case scenario, we just have a social distancing forever. So for our guards, first aid, they had to wear a face shield and their masks. All of our staff had masks in their fanny pack in a Ziploc bag, which all of them stayed dry, surprisingly. And then for our guards at our zero depth area and our guard at top of slides, they had little boxes that were marked out for them where people weren't allowed to enter that box. And it was really encouraged that if you were like having somebody come up and talk to you, you be in your box kind of thing. And then something that we added this summer, we had a first aid tent, lifeguard tent last summer, but this year we added an additional, I'm guarding lives. Please see the first aid guard tent for minor first aid attention, so that they weren't actually having any interaction with a patron unless they're making a save or letting them know of a rule.
Awesome, thank you. Alex, what about Pella?
So we are kind of similar to what everyone else has been saying. Patron wise, we didn't do a lot of, masks were recommended but not required. Social distancing, we kind of left it up to them. Our biggest thing was keeping people social distance away from the lifeguards, because we have a lot of walking spots for lifeguards. So we put cones along the walls where people would usually sit and didn't allow guests to sit on the wall. And then we also had our public works department come paint a line around the pool. It was a yellow line, and guests were not allowed to stand inside of that yellow line to keep them away from the lifeguards. So they either had to be outside of the yellow line or inside the pool, just to keep people away. Lifeguards wore masks when they rotated, or if for some reason they couldn't be 6 feet away from a patron or another lifeguard. And then we just also added like some more break areas for them, because our lifeguarding room is very small. So we just tried to keep the lifeguards away from each other and patrons. And then we took temperatures of the lifeguards, and we had a sheet that had COVID questions on it that they were asked every day, like if they had been in contact with someone within the last, I think it's 14 days. And then it asked specific questions about any kind of health symptoms. And then they had to answer those when they came in as they clocked in.
Awesome. And Ankeny, how about you guys? What'd you guys do, Katie?
So a lot of the stuff everyone else is saying we did. Some of the differences would be that we required masks at all times for our guards, unless they were on a stand. So our walking guards had to wear them while they rotated, and they did breaks in the concession stand area. They were told to wear them in the concession stand area, even though it was outside and they were 6 feet apart, unless they were eating or drinking. We found that really helped. We had some COVID cases, and that helped. We found that when we contact traced, no one had got it from another person at the pool. They had all got it from outside the pool that we discovered. So that meant that our measures were working. As far as we're aware, they social distanced. We didn't do any screenings for staff. We talked a lot at our orientation about if you have any symptoms, if you have anything, you need to be calling either our pool manager or myself, and we'll have a discussion about whether or not you should be going to work or not. For patrons, that acrylic paint idea is a good idea. We used red dots. So we had like these red dots that are about this big, and I think we put out about 100 of them. Most of them lasted the whole season. By our water slide, the one we did keep open, they kind of started peeling up towards the end of the year. We found that people were looking at them in the front, like in the lines we put them, but not so much around the pool. They looked at them and tried to follow them, but it's a little more difficult. We also put up barricades. We were supposed to have an event this summer up at our band shell, and the event got canceled. So we took all the barricades for the pool. And so it was kind of like to lead the lines in a direction. Usually admission and concession is absolute crazy. And so if we put out these barricades and all the dots, they kind of controlled where everyone was going. And then the barricades were placed all around the pool, like at our lines for the slides, at our lines for the diving well. I think we used about 75 barricades that are all about 6 feet long to just kind of keep people apart and keep those lines where we wanted them. So I think that's about it.
Awesome. Well, we got a couple questions left. I do want to, we're going to spend about a few more minutes because I want to respect the time for questions and answers. So the next ones are going to be pretty straightforward. What I'm going to ask the presenters just to give one strategy that they learned that would be for the greater good. So as you guys open, what is one strategy you found that you can share for stressful times and high stakes that we can tell our staff? And let's go with, I'll start with Hannah on this one.
Give grace to people. That's my know that, yes, you are very, it's just people pissed me off a lot this summer. And it was obviously, they were all very thankful that we were able to open. They weren't thankful with how we opened, the little amount of people, how we sold passes, all of that. But I guess, they were going through the same thing too. We're all going through the pandemic together. So just give grace to people. Know that not everybody, yells at you and you don't know what's going on in their life. So that's my thing.
Awesome. Alex, what about you guys in Pella? What is one strategy you can share?
Yeah, the biggest thing that we changed this summer that I think was most helpful is instead of the supervisors, managers being in like an office setting, we actually put like a shade structure out on the pool deck where everyone could see them. And then we sat in chairs so we could see what all the lifeguards were doing. And then if people did have questions, they came to us and we tried not to have them talk to the lifeguards. So I think that helps. And then that way people weren't getting misinformation or being told something wrong if a lifeguard didn't know. So that was super helpful for us this summer because I agree people were really cranky this summer.
Thank you. Mandy, what about you guys in Tipton?
So something that we did maybe wasn't the most like litter friendly, but every single time somebody came in and paid for a daily admission, they got a slip that gave our general rules along with their receipt. This helped a lot for when parents came up to our first aid tent, especially with it being our second summer. People got really used to, you don't go up to a lifeguard, you go to the guard tent for issues. And myself or my pool manager were usually there to help support whoever was on break. And it was usually a basic, well, this rule's right here. And you were given it when you walked in. So that was really helpful. It saved a lot of our headache, majority of the time.
Awesome. And Katie, what about you guys? What is one strategy you found that would be effective for frontline staff? Katie?
Looks like Katie's on the phone.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot. She got out. Yeah, sorry about that. Let's go to question 8. You guys already kind of talked a little bit about this. I'm just going to kind of open up and see if you have 1 minute or less of just additional information. You talked about a little bit of normal schedule and reservation systems. Anything else you want to add to this? And let's start with Hannah. Anything else you want to add on to this, what you've already talked about?
Yeah, so basically we used to do just a 1 to 7 open swim. This past summer we did a 1:30 to 5 just to try and get more people in there. Pass holders can come in at 1. On Monday, I'm actually going to our Parks and Rec Commission to be able to adopt that. We're going to go 1 to 6:30 instead of, I really wanted 1 to 6. But actual pass holders will still be able to get in at 1 where daily admissions can't get in until 1:30. So we're going to keep with that.
Nice. Mandy, how about you guys?
Our schedule actually became very consistent. So we had same hours across the board, weekend and during the days. We were 12 to 6 outdoors, 12 to 8 indoors. So that was very helpful, and I think we will continue to do that.
Awesome. And Alex, how about you guys in Pella?
Yeah, we had our 2 sessions, Monday through Saturday, and then we did not open on Sundays. Our normal hours are 1 to 7, Monday through Friday, 1 to 6 Saturdays, 1 to 5 Sundays. We are hoping to move back to that as long as staff allows. As of right now, I haven't heard any different, so we will see if that changes.
Awesome, thank you. And the last question, you guys, all of you have talked about a little bit of open swim and some swim lessons and lap swim. We won't really need to cover over this, but was there any other programming that you did during COVID that you didn't talk about yet? Anything worth sharing? Or was it a swim lessons and open swim if we need to? Let's start with Hannah.
Yeah, so we did do swim lessons. We didn't do any private swim lessons. All of our group swim lessons, from the little kids up until our second highest level, had to have a parent in the water with them at all times. So that way then our instructor never had to touch a kid. And then the instructors all wore masks, obviously. Programming other than that, we actually started up another tot spot on Saturday mornings. And that was just for toddler swim. We hadn't done that for probably before me, so before 6 years. So that was kind of nice. I obviously maybe have a little bit to say in that because I do have a 2-year-old daughter. But that was, we didn't do any special events. We canceled our mermaid party. We canceled night swims because our night swims are outrageously popular. But that's kind of all of our programming.
Awesome, thank you. Oh yeah, let's do Alex. Pella.
So we actually did not do swim lessons. We actually still haven't done swim lessons. We're hoping to do them in March. Our pool is so deep that they don't want them wearing masks. So we've been trying to figure out what to do that. So we're still trying to figure that out. Also, Ellis doesn't want anyone using the locker rooms. So we chose not to have lessons during winter because we didn't want people leaving wet. So just that's some of the reasons we're not doing that. But we did offer swim team this summer and this winter through our USA program that we have a contract with the city. So we just do lap swim, open swim, and swim team as of right now. And that's all we did this summer as well.
Awesome. And then Mandy, you're the only one left on this one?
So we had swim lessons. We added family lessons to our lineup for lessons. That was intended to be like its own program where like the kiddos who are screamers at lessons can get in the water with parents and do what they do at group lessons with their parent in the water. So it was more of a supplemental idea that turned into what we did this summer. So that's kind of how our group lesson program turned out too. A parent was just in the water, but we followed the Red Cross swim lesson things for our group lessons like normal. We didn't have private lessons. We did our parent taught class because parents are already in the water with that. We had swim team, swim club. We currently have lessons back to somewhat normal is what I call them. All the kids have a dot they sit on. They're encouraged to wear masks when they're on the deck. And then like our instructors wear face shields. Parents are socially distanced outside of the water, all that sorts of stuff. We had some really fun events that we were able to socially distance with. We have been open for 15 years last summer. So we did like a little birthday party kind of thing. Didn't work out like we wanted to. It wasn't on our opening birthday because we weren't able to open on our opening birthday. So that was kind of sad, but we did it a month later. And we just did like sign a thank you card, happy birthday to the pool kind of thing. We also did Lifeguard Appreciation Day, which I know isn't in the summer. but we did it. We picked a random day that we thought was going to be mildly slower, and we staffed extra. So kids were able to sit in an extra stand and pretend they were a lifeguard. They were able to stand with the guard and point at who wanted to, or whose turn it was to go down the slide when the guard told them to. And the kids loved it. Like, it was probably the best thing. They did coloring pages, and that was all outside. So those were kind of the fun activities that we did as well.
Ryan, I'm also back if you wanted me to talk. I'm sorry, I was with the basketball coach.
Actually, I think we're pretty good, but if you want to real quick, do you have since you guys opened, do you have one strategy that you could share with the group that you found effective for our frontline staff as they approach another COVID summer?
I would say just making yourself visible, kind of what I think Alex was the one who was talking about, being on deck and having supervisors on deck more. I think being visible, I went to the pool almost every other day just to check in, because a lot of the staff I found were stressful, especially when people were sitting out because they had called into work or they were out for contact tracing. Just seeing someone there and seeing someone confident that we were still open and we're still doing this was a big key for them. So
awesome, thank you. Well, we're gonna kind of be conservative of everyone's time, so what we're gonna do now is open it up to the audience for questions, and then I'm gonna keep this shared screen a little bit, so you guys, if you have more detailed, you can email them or contact them. But I think it's Kate, we can open it up if we're ready.
Perfect. So we're going to start with some of the questions in the chat, and then we'll open it up to have just more of kind of a group conversation, and people can unmute themselves if they want to talk. So I'm going to start with the most recent questions and kind of work backwards. So Afton asked, are people planning, so if you had a change, are you planning to bring that back? So the specific questions, are you planning to bring back night swims and special events this year? So for the four of you, things that you didn't do, are you repeating that, or are you phasing in things that had been cut last year as you look to 2021? And anybody can hop in here.
Okay, Hannah here in Fort Dodge. Yes, we are planning on actually doing some night swims, and we might actually tailor that more to just pass holders only, to hence push buying a pass, help us with our budget a little bit. So we're going to try doing that. I'm not advertising for any type of special events in our program guide that's going to go out here in a few weeks, but I'm not opposed to doing any special events. I just kind of got to feel it out, how the summer's going, how vaccines come out, all of that in our county. But I think we are going to try more of the type of special events that we can do during an actual open swim day that doesn't affect how much, that we don't have to bring extra staff in for.
I'm going to get a feel for what my staff felt, if they had fun as well. It's not fun for anybody if they're dreading coming in. So I'm waiting to get their ideas if they want to continue to do those events.
I'm going to interject here real quick. Can I go ahead and stop sharing the screen? Is everyone good? All right. All right, sorry about that.
Okay, so we also had a question about specific positions that are designed to be like sanitation crew or sanitation positions. Is anybody continuing to hire for that, or has anybody created a specific job for that? And what did you call it? So I know Dania said that they're doing an aquatic sanitation crew and they're paying $9 an hour. The four of you, are you looking to do that again? Are you pulling somebody out of their job duty? Maybe they have a different position, or are you hiring specifically for that position? And what do you call it? And what did you pay, or what are you paying?
So we didn't actually make a new job description or hire people specifically for cleaning. We just kind of took them out of their normal job duties for part of a day or a whole day and did that. They got paid out of the same exact account that they normally do. and they got paid the exact same rate as what they did as well. Again, I think I mentioned this, but we are going to actually take away some of those specific cleaning people that happen during the day. And we're actually just going to pass it on to duties that another person can easily do, since we found that we had time for those other people that they could do them.
I would say in Ankeny, if we were to have cleaners again, we do it on a same rotation. Just having the admission concessions people do it. And then the lifeguards help out as well. If we are to have that break in the middle again, they do a massive clean. So they help us out as well.
All right,
Yeah, we
thank
did
you.
awesome.
So go ahead, Alex, sorry.
No, you're right. We just do the same thing as Kate said, just have the same.
Okay. Cool. So what we'll do now is we're just going to turn it over for some more general conversation. So if you have specific questions for the panelists, feel free to direct it towards them. Otherwise, we just want to talk a little bit more broadly about COVID considerations as we move into the summer here, and just kind of talk through what folks are doing. I know behind the scenes, there's been a lot of questions and emails and, kind of like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And comparing notes a little bit. So we can do some of that as well. We just ask that when you're talking, unmute yourself, and then mute yourself when you're not talking. That way we just cut down on some of that background noise.
So are most people that are anticipating that they're going to open this summer, when it comes to the public swim, the open swims, are you going to be just exercising whatever your city decides as the precautions for COVID, but are you going to rely more on capacities and reduced capacities? That would be the question.
So for Mason City, we are planning on opening. Right now, we are looking into the capacity route. That's what from what I'm getting from our city administrator and our mayor, because our mayor we're still under the mask mandate. Our city hall is still closed right now, even though the governor's proclamation says something different. They are still wanting us to do all the COVID protocol. That's like, I think Brian, you made the comment last week, if COVID's still here, we're still going to take it serious, so we're going to still be doing that. And we are favoring the capacity route with Mason City.
I know with Clive, because we've had our summer already planned out since December. Right now, the challenge is where council wants to go. So I think we're kind of coming to a consensus. If they're wanting to be fully open, they got to be respectful that we're asking half capacity, because if you look at your mechanical records and all that, those numbers are already way too high. So like ours was 900. We're proposing this year 400 right now until things get better. So.
Yeah, so in Fort Dodge, we actually, when we had all three pools open, we were a 300 person capacity, and our license is like 1,172 people. So we cut it dramatically down. But this summer, since we only reached capacity one time and even came close, maybe another, not even a handful of times the whole summer, we're actually not going to say we have a capacity to the public. We are going to still keep our capacity. We haven't decided technically by the Iowa Department of Public Health guidelines for the COVID, we could do like 750 people. We might go about down to 600, but we're just going to keep it as what we have done in the past. When we reach our full capacity, we're just going to tell people we are at full capacity. We're not going to say, hey, we have, because I think that scared a lot of people away from us, was mentioning we're only allowing in 225 people. We're only allowing in 300 people. And people are like, oh, well, it's a really hot day. Everybody's going to want to go to the pool. And then 50 people showed up, when it's a 90-degree day. So we are actually going to go away. We're still going to have it in the back of our minds. Everybody's still going to know it, staff side, public side, just not going to know that what our capacity is. We will still obviously tell people, hey, we're at capacity now, but we're not going to do the capacity count every day, every half an hour.
I don't want to open a can of worms with this one, and I'm sorry for my community partners around Clive, but right now we are going with no groups. That's kind of the consensus. The only groups that will allow part of the capacity is our own program and another program that does a service for us for the community, but we will be denying daycares coming in this season so we can allow our patrons to use the pool more. So sorry, West Des Moines, sorry, Des Moines, sorry, Adel, you guys probably will get those groups. I see Austin. Yeah, Austin's like, yeah.
We're doing similar in Iowa City tentatively. We have a tentative plan, but I think everything's still pretty subject to change. So our capacity is going to be a number that we make up. Our true capacity for the outdoor pool is 1,000 people. That's, I've only ever hit 400 on a free day on the 4th of July. And that's, if we went by that, if we went by 50%, then that's unrealistic. And if we went by 25%, then that's still pretty full for us. So we're going to pick a number. We haven't picked that number yet, but we're going to pick a number and we're going to let our staff know what it is and keep track that way. We're not going to do reservations, I don't believe. I think we're just going to be letting people come in first come, first serve, blocks. Well, not blocks throughout the day. And then we are not planning to have groups. We are planning to have a few pre-scheduled blocks where we'll reach out to some community partners that swim with us pretty consistently and allow them to come in for more of like a closed camp time where we wouldn't be open to the public at the same time, just to be a good community partner and at least get each of these groups in one time. But we're not going to be accommodating parties, rentals, things like that. Any other questions? Anybody providing evening pool parties? Someone's asking. So who is planning to do parties and rentals? Or if you did them last summer, you have any best, kind of best practices to share or things to not do, maybe?
So in Fort Dodge, we actually did have a couple pool parties last summer. They are after hours, so we always close at 6 p.m. on Sundays, and we would have them from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. So it gave us enough time to go around, clean a little bit, clean, sanitize, and then let the pool party in. We will be doing the exact same thing this year. Schedule them, hopefully maybe every Sunday night again, and then for other pool parties types of stuff, we don't allow anything during the day. We do allow, if we call it like a birthday party package where they can rent a cabana, and then they get 10 people in for that price. Again, I kind of see it as a first come, first serve type of thing. But we haven't made the decision yet on if we're going to offer the tables, picnic benches, picnic tables, all of that inside those cabanas.
One thing that we're talking about doing is kind of like the Disney experience where there'll be things that are spread out throughout the deck. We're not taking away furniture. We're just going to move clusters of furniture together, and give people some space to come in and do that. We're not going to let people bring in their own stuff though. That's just not something that we've done in the past. So I don't want to I'm trying not to modify anything that I'm going to have to change again when things level out a little bit. And I've talked about before that I think it's a little bit of an accessibility issue, at least on our end, for us to not have certain furniture. So we're going to spread it out and have people like clean and sanitize in between those areas. But we're going to just kind of have things set throughout. We've also talked about maybe having like color stations and things like that, but we decided it was just too complicated and we were just gonna kind of give people more freedom to choose what their comfort level was with coming to the pool. We're opening for open swim here in a couple weeks inside, and we are gonna do color coded seating inside. So we'll have like kind of like pods of seating that are all 6 feet apart. And when people come in, they put their stuff on that area, and then we'll sanitize those in between the reservations. But it'll be a little bit more fluid in the summer. And I think by then we probably will also do away with our indoor pool reservations, and it'll be more fully operational where you come in and it's not blocks anymore of time. It's more just come in and then see. I mean, we don't normally hit capacity at our pools anyway, but that's the plan.
Are you planning on doing a pre-registration for that open swim?
We are for the indoor pool. So we haven't announced this yet, but we are bringing open swim back probably spring break week or maybe the week after if we have trouble with staffing. And that will be reservation based. So it'll follow the system we have in place for lap lane reservation and water walking right now. But our target is to be able to pull that all back in May. And then it's, you know, it's just come in more full hours. So right now they're 45-minute blocks on the 15. We clean from, the top of the hour to the 15 and kind of reset. We're not going to be looking to do that come May. So we would take that away in May at the indoor pools. And then when we open the outdoor pool Memorial Day weekend, that would be, we would have had that month to kind of transition and just like work through some of those kinks internally while we're open indoors, and then do that as well out at City.
So is anyone going to be using their concession tables for concessions this year?
We are, but we also got lucky before COVID that our concession tables are all one surface now, not porous. So
Okay.
we're able to clean it effectively this summer.
So are you going to have someone like cleaning it every time a group gets off the table? So
Yeah, so the way that our staffing, the concession stand is set up, I could use our runners to be the disinfectors as well. So
okay.
That is something the head manager and I are currently working and looking at right now.
Is anybody not sanitizing furniture in between use? And I ask because last weekend we went to Wisconsin and we stayed at a hotel that had a water park and they didn't, and no one cared. Like it was a very wild experience. So I'm wondering, is anybody not doing that? Did anybody not do it last summer and have anybody question it?
Hey, Kate, last summer we opened concessions and we did not sanitize any of the tables and no one questioned it. And indoor pool right now, we just do high touch services, but I'll be honest, if it just get off the CDC website, we would not do that.
Yeah, I feel like the cleaning is performative. Like it makes people feel good, but I don't know that it's really doing much. Yeah, it's interesting. Is anybody not cleaning off chairs in between use?
Not using chairs, but less like fair and like not in between every single person, but we did clean hourly.
How are you going to handle a lifeguard if they're positive for COVID? How are you going to handle the contact tracing aspect of it? What's going to be your policy?
Our policy in Fort Dodge, our policy this past summer, we did have a couple. And basically we looked to see when they worked. We looked to see what type of training we did for that. And we just kind of based it on a case-by-case situation. We actually, all of our staff had never gotten it from each other, and nobody else had tested positive from that one staff member. or from the staff members that had tested positive. They all got it from outside of work. So that was really comforting. That actually happened within our whole department, all the positive cases that we had throughout everywhere. But otherwise, we just kind of talked with the employee, asked them. It's pretty informal. And I mean, our Webster County Public Health does a lot of the contact tracing themselves. And so then we did have a couple times, and they were best friends that had been contacted and said that they couldn't work. And so we worked around that.
And did you need to discuss any of that or talk to the public about any of that? And somebody had worked at your pool who was testing positive? How did you handle the public aspect of that?
We didn't at all. We actually discussed with our city manager, our human resources, our attorney, and it was never brought up that nobody actually needs to know. That's kind of the way we went with it. We obviously, the few times that it did happen, we found out after the pool had already closed. And we just went in and did a nice deep clean before the next day, and we were open right again the next day.
What was the requirement for the staff member to be gone? So was it 10 days or 14 days? How is it going in your city for that?
It's actually whatever the public health says. They give us, they would contact the person, they would give them a date of when they could return to work. I don't really know. I think it's kind of a lot depending on if you showed symptoms, when you showed symptoms versus not showing symptoms at all and still somehow being contact traced and then getting tested. But yeah, it really just depended on the circumstances and what our county health department told the person.
Okay, so you didn't really have to handle that situation. You had your Department of Public Health for your county handle it, correct?
Yeah, I mean, because they gave them a note, especially if they tested positive, they were given a note that said you can't return for. There's actually 3 different check marks on theirs on our county's paper that says, and I don't really remember exactly what all 3 of them are, but one is 10 days from the onset of symptoms, 14 days from the positive test date, and I don't remember what that 3rd one is. So it's whichever one was checked on their sheet.
Okay.
And did you end up paying the person for the days that they would have been on the schedule and worked due to a positive test?
Yes, we did. We paid because we typically are scheduling out 2 to 3 weeks in advance. So we paid them for everything. We were able to use that ESE. I don't know if that's universal for everybody, but that's the code that we were given. It's the COVID code. So we paid everybody if they tested positive or if they were told they had to quarantine. If they if they decided on their own that they wanted to quarantine because they thought that they had been in contact with somebody, but they were never contacted by public health, then no, we didn't.
So I just wanted to share a little bit about what we have had happen. So we've been open since August. We've been open to the public since October for lap swim. We report what staff is out and why. So we haven't had any staff that's had COVID, but we've had people that have been told by the county to quarantine. And so the city, the HR department has their guideline that has come from the CDC and that the city abides by. And that's how long that they need to be out based on, if they've had a negative test and how many days it's been. So that's what we go off of. If they've had to, I mean, we've kind of HR has made some different recommendations, but that would be where I would go back to just say, this is what the CDC says, are we doing this? Or if they have, another policy for full-time staff, they'll be able to help you on that. As far as contact tracing, we don't have any, we have reservations, but we have never had any protocol in place for contact tracing and, since October. So I think that ask your own county, but Johnson County has been pretty thorough, I feel like, but, and correct me if Farron or Ashley, like, you know more about this with contact tracing, but we don't have any policy in place about contact tracing, and we don't have any, like Hannah said, like we wouldn't announce anything like, we do, and we have, sometimes like, AFRs and stuff. We wouldn't do anything like that, is my understanding, and it hasn't happened, or we haven't had it reported that it's happened. So that might be something that's evolved a little bit. So I would just look at I would talk with whoever is in charge with public health and with HR and figure out what it is that they're wanting you to do. I mean, Katie, did you and Ankeny were you doing contact tracing? And sorry if I missed it when you already talked about it, but 1,000 people a day. I mean, you absolutely had people come through there that had tested positive. Did you have people, did you do anything with that? Or I think it's kind of just, I don't want to say it's not a thing, but I think it's just it's too out there, it's too broad to really do much with it, I think.
So the good news is that because they were all registering through Sportsman's, we had all their emails. So when we did have positive case at the pool, either a staff or a patron, we emailed everyone who registered to come that day and told them that there had been a positive case reported at the pool if it was in that 48-hour window. It didn't say anything really specific. It said, if you were at the pool this day. It didn't even say a time. It just said, if you're at the pool this day, you may have come in contact with someone who tested positive for COVID-19. If it was staff, it was a little different. So the only contact tracing for like anyone outside of our, like any patrons or anything, was through that email. If it was staff, they received a when to work message, is just how we do scheduling. It doesn't still say the name of the employee, and it says we send that after we've contact traced. So if I had an employee test positive, I find out everyone they've come in contact with in the last 48 hours from the time of their test. And then we call those employees and they would have to get tested. It was a little different then. It was like, just go get tested. And if you test negative, you can come back. Now it's different with like the 5 days you should wait from your exposure, or 7 days. But we were doing what was at the time. So then we would let the staff know, those who needed to sit out. We called them individually and talked to them. And we sent the whole staff an email saying that there are people who will be sitting out. Again, it was their choice to share if they tested positive or not. We never told anyone what staff it was. Some of them may have figured some of it out just based on who was gone and how long they were gone for, but we never confirmed anything with anyone. I was the only point of contact, and Ryan and our department director in HR found out, but that was more for communication between us and between departments. And they would get paid if, kind of like, I did see, was that Hannah talking? Or, no, I don't remember who was talking. If they were sitting out because we asked them to for contact tracing, or because they tested positive, they got paid. We did have some cases where some people were just kind of nervous and decided to sit out, even though, like, if we said a staff got exposed, they were like, well, I could have been exposed even if we didn't call them. Sometimes they would choose to sit out, and then we wouldn't pay them if they weren't part of that contact tracing. So it got a little strange, but I hope all that makes sense. We did the best we could to contact trace and let everyone know. So
for swim lessons, sorry, I'm switching to something else now. So
Oh,
for
yeah, you're
swim
good.
lessons, I do 2 weeks, but we also do evening swim lessons, which would be like 3 weeks in a row, Tuesday, Thursday, Tuesday, Thursday. Is anyone doing the Tuesday, Thursday type thing, or are you just trying to do 2 weeks in a row? Because I was looking at American Red Cross and they suggest like a shorter time frame of having those lessons, so they're not scattered apart in case if patrons would get COVID at the swim lessons and have it there. You know what I mean? I'm just wondering what to do.
In Fort Dodge, we only ever do summer swim lessons, and just to get the amount of swim lessons in that we can, we just do Monday through Thursday for 2 weeks, take a week off, then go back to back for another 2 more sessions. So we'll just keep with that same thing that we've always done.
Okay.
We've been doing, it's Farron Corville. We've been doing some lessons. Pretty much we didn't stop, but we haven't changed our schedule. So we have Monday night swim lessons that go 6 weeks, Tuesday or Wednesday night 6 weeks, and our Saturday 6 weeks. we haven't run into any problems. I think we've had one patron say my child is under quarantine due to school, but we've never had a problem and we haven't modified anything.
All right. Any other thoughts or questions or just things folks want to share before we wrap up here? Okay. Well, with that, we will conclude. I did want to give everybody a little bit of a preview for next month. So there are a couple of calls coming up. There's a Red Cross call. Ooh, is it next week, Kelly, the 16th?
I think it's the
On
16th.
Tuesday.
Yes, on
Okay.
the Tuesday, the 16th at 10 a.m. Sorry, I forgot to talk about that one.
No, that's okay.
Kind of an FAQ. I have not received any questions ahead of time to pass on to Cindy and Matt, but if anyone has any, please email me them so I can send that off. Otherwise, they're just going to kind of go over a full overview. So this is going to be really helpful for folks to, how do I do cert extensions? How do I, get staff recertified, the provisional certifications, making sure that everyone's certificate is kind of legit. They'll probably talk about swim lessons and different things. So if you did not open or you did and you just want to know what's happening with the Red Cross, Cindy and Matt will be sitting down with us on Tuesday at 10 o'clock to go over all those. So very appreciative of their time. So again, if you have any questions that you want me to send out to them, that'll just help them with the flow of things.
Kelly, is that a Zoom or a phone call?
It's a Zoom, and the information is posted. So how you got today's Zoom login information, that's already posted on the member only side of the website. So it's just listed under, I think it's Red Cross FAQ for 216.
Kelly, will that be recorded also?
Yes.
I
we
know they're
do
having
plan-
another meeting that 10. So, okay,
Yep.
perfect.
Yep.
All right. So I guess I forgot one other thing to mention as well. I contacted Johnson County to see if lifeguards would be considered first responders, and I provided them with a bunch of information about what lifeguards are, because part of the problem with us not being deemed first responders is a misunderstanding about what it is that our staff are doing a lot of the time. They said no, but if anybody wants that to send to their own county, I know where the public's starting to get kind of more access, but if anybody wanted any of that information to attempt it in your county, let me know. I'm happy to send it. I think part of the reason why it was a no here as well is because we have so many healthcare professionals in Johnson County, but I'm happy to share that as well. Just kind of a side note there. Okay, so March's meeting is called Spring Staff Spectacular. It's going to be a 5-part like ed session. It's going to move pretty quick. We're going to have speakers that are just going to do a 10-minute like micro session basically. Trevor in West Des Moines is going to do 10 minutes on recruiting. Jill of Ames is going to do 10 minutes on onboarding and orientation. I am going to do 10 minutes on retention. Ashley in North Liberty is going to do 10 minutes on in-services. And then Brian is going to do 10 minutes on leadership development. And this is designed to kind of be like some really like quick, high level and very specific ideas that you can take and implement. It'll take about an hour. And then the rest of that session will be Q&A as it is now. We can kind of talk through some more nitty gritty type stuff. So if anybody has any topics that they want to send me ahead of time to lead that second part a little bit, let me know. Otherwise, we'll just do as we've done for the last few meetings where we've just kind of opened up the Q&A a little bit and gone from there and kind of seen what questions have popped up for folks. So if no one has anything else, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Have a wonderful weekend. Happy Friday. And we'll see many of you next week for the Red Cross session. And thanks so much to all of our panelists. Feel free to email them if you have any additional questions. And that's a wrap.
Thank you. Thank you. Everyone stay warm out there.
Thanks, guys.
Yes, see ya.